New technology to detect alcohol for workplace safety. Welcome back to Techstination. I'm Fred Fishkin. Joining us from Denver-based SOBRsafe, it's SOBRsafe, is CEO David Gandini. Hi, David.
Hey, hi, Fred. Thanks very much for having us.
A pleasure to meet you. Well, let's start with an overview of what SOBRsafe is.
Sure. Uh, we have developed at SOBRsafe a technology that detects the presence or absence of alcohol in a person's system. And it's done by using a sensor technology with an algorithm that we've built that senses vapor that's emitted from the skin, fingertips, wrist, that has ethanol, which would indicate that one has been drinking. And that's the new and latest technology that's extremely disruptive and kind of changing the landscape versus the breathalyzer, which has been in the market for decades. So that's who we are. We have it in a stationary device, so a one-time check-in, check-out, and also a wristband called the SoberSure.
Interesting. Now, of course, there was that news report last month of a pilot for Southwest being arrested for DUI, but the issues and dangers go far beyond, obviously, that one incident. Tell us about it.
Well, I mean, if you look at it, Fred, the most dangerous jobs are often well-paying and monotonous. If you look at oil and gas, mining, construction, these particular industries have the highest rates of binge drinking. And with a tight labor market for these industries, it can be, believe it or not, preferable for these employers to not know the status of the worker and have to replace that worker. So there's historically been no uniform daily testing required. So it's a wide open space right now. What's happening today, Fred, as you're probably aware, when an accident occurs, somebody's tested post-accident. So the system's backwards, and we're making some strides with certain companies and customers that are looking to drive and lead in that space to make sure that their employees are alcohol free and safe.
What's the story behind the company?
Company was founded in 2019, and we had a sensor that we thought we could bring to the market. Initially, what we thought, Fred, was that we could be similar to come up with a alcohol BAC equivalent, but with a transdermal sensor. Can't happen. As we had a number of discussions when we were building the first device, what we figured out is that there is no testing today prior to workers entering a workplace. And so we developed the first piece of technology, the SoberCheck, which is a stationary device, which we launched, I think, in late 22, early 23, and then working in spaces like behavioral health, where they needed consistent recovery, they needed consistent monitoring, we ended up developing the band. So we started off with a stationary device, we got into oil, gas, fleet, and then we transitioned over time where there was already a function in place, function being the breathalyzer, and we developed the additional tech that we have right now. So it's been about a 5-year path for us to get here.
Tell us more about how this works.
Sure. So again, as I mentioned earlier, if you're drinking, you through the vapor sweat that comes from your either fingertips, your arms, I mean, anywhere in your body, the sensor that we've developed, when you put on the stationary device, you put your finger over the sensor, it'll recognize whether or not you have ethanol in that vapor, and then it triggers a signal, and we've got an algorithm, and it determines whether or not you have alcohol, and it reports into a database and reports into whoever is managing those individuals. So it's basically a touch sensor, and it's looking for ethanol in the vapor in your skin, whether it's on the wrist or using your finger, same sensor, same technology.
Tell me about the comparison to the traditional breathalyzer and what this tells you as opposed to, say, the breathalyzer.
So with our sensor versus a breathalyzer, when you blow into a breathalyzer, you're getting today an equivalent to blood alcohol content. With our sensor, you're getting whether or not there's a presence or absence of alcohol. So we're not in a space where we would be used by police officers at roadside sobriety. It's it's just a preventative detection device. With the band, the difference between the sober check, which is a point in time, and the band, it's 24/7 alcohol detection with GPS to locate individuals. If they are drinking, if they have issues, then those individuals can be managed. So point in time, somewhat similar to the breathalyzer, but it's 10 seconds versus 40 seconds. It's hygienic and it's discreet. And then with a band, it's 24/7, hygienic, discreet. It just operates differently. It's very disruptive in comparison to what's being used today.
So give us more about the use case scenarios here, where this is appropriate, how it's being used.
Yeah. So we talked about, and we've had documentation out there. For example, let's take TerraTech. TerraTech is an oil and gas company. They have 16 locations, and as I mentioned, there's a significant issue with alcohol and binge drinking in oil and gas. So what we did is we worked with their chief safety officer, and we put these stationary devices in place. So when individuals come to their facility, they check in. If everything is fine, there's no alcohol in their system, then they proceed. They go to work, and then when they leave for lunch, they got to recheck in. When if they ever leave the facility, they got to recheck in. So what's happened with TerraTech is they saw 100% compliance from their employees with their zero alcohol policy, and they've had a significant uptick in performance and the reduced accidents, things like that. But all workers have really come to appreciate the technology, and they recognize that the management's committed to their safety. So that's oil and gas. Our focus really over the last year has been in the behavioral health space. So you've got a situation with alcohol and you're seeing a clinician and you get out of rehabilitation. What's happened today or prior to us is you go into a facility, you blow into a breathalyzer, and you're in a waiting room with a bunch of people. So it's humiliating to a certain extent. It brings that individual back to when they first had their first issue. And they sit down and information's put in on the computer and they follow through the process. Today, with the Sober Check, we've got a fingerprint identifier for biometrics, and we've got the sensor. You walk in, you put your fingers down on the device, they recognize who you are, and you're alcohol free. If you're not, you'd go through the same process if you blew in a breathalyzer, but 10 seconds versus 40 seconds, humane versus inhumane, and you sit down and you're logged into the system and you meet with your treatment provider. So the behavioral health space, Fred, which are about 46,000 facilities in the US, we're gaining traction in that space. And then also on the consumer side, this is for the band, where statistics show that 30 million individuals this year in the US are looking for some type of support with alcohol use disorder. So our two primary markets right now are where there is already a function in place, which is the breathalyzer, and it's in the behavioral health space, and then consumers, which may be tied to behavioral health, may be in a facility, but they're looking for a way to manage their behavior with alcohol.
And the band would report through a phone, or how is it going to report in if someone tests or their indications that there is alcohol present?
Yeah, good question. So the band is tethered to your phone, and there's GPS locator as to where you're at, and then the band is tied to, let's say if you have you've got issue with alcohol and your wife is managing your situation, your wife would be your administrator, and if you were engaging in alcohol, that would trigger to your administrator. Or in the case of if you've got 50, 60, or 100 individuals that are going into a facility, it would tie into a dashboard. So if there was any issue with alcohol, it would trigger on that dashboard and action can be taken immediately.
I see. And are the bands not easily removable, or are they trigger an alert if they are removed? Is that what
yeah? So can you see? This is the band, the Sober shirt, and you have to be. It's an elective. So if you want to, it's not justice, it's not penal. So if you wear the band, it's elective. You want to get better, and if you do remove it, yes, there is a notification that happens along with your location. So this is elective versus punitive, where individuals make the decision that they want to improve their lives and they want to work through their alcohol use disorder issues. So they're electing to do this. It is not locking. It's not like the ankle monitor. If you've got a situation that's punitive. So specifically for this ban, it's elective.
How else might this technology be used? I mean, is it appropriate to think about a steering wheel that would have the sensors, or we're not really measuring the DUI levels here, right?
No. There's a number of different opportunities. Again, we're in Australia and New Zealand right now, where they're mimicking what we're doing here in the U.S. We're testing with a large group in Italy right now that is looking at putting these bans on their drivers. And we're also testing in the near term, we'll be testing outside the US at an airport for airport individuals that work within the airport and airport individuals that work for the airlines. But there's a number of different opportunities. We're also looking at licensing the technology to be stacked within other solutions that are out there in the marketplace for safety that don't have alcohol. But Fred, there's an opportunity in about every industry, but until our brand is built and we've got significant traction in some of the markets, our focus is, consumer and behavioral health and oil and gas right now, but it could apply in any industry. But we're a young company, so we really need to build the brand and we need to add customers and keep growing the business. And we have reach out from other companies outside the U.S. where the alcohol policies are much more stringent. As I mentioned, we're doing some things in Italy and India, but right now we're focused on where we're in the markets that we're in, and we're looking for expansion where it makes sense. But the answer, Fred, is every industry. It just depends on being able to get these individuals that run these companies to focus on safety and understand the seriousness of alcohol use disorder.
Tell us what you can about the pricing, how it works.
Sure. For the stationary device, the device is $7.99, and then it's roughly about $10 per user per month. So it's a SaaS model. So once you have the device, based on the number of users, you pay on a per user basis. And the band is $299 and anywhere between $39 and $69 per month for the software subscription, depending on if you need reports that you want to print out, that you need to give to your recovery group, whatever you might need. Or if you have a large facility like behavioral health, we have a dashboard. And for that dashboard, all patients that are using the device show up on the dashboard. So they would want a monthly report to manage their alcohol. So you'd have reporting on the back end of that.
Really interesting. So for more info, where can people go?
They can go to SOBRsafe.com, and we've got a number of videos and great information on how the product works. And we've got testimonials from customers that we have. So there's a lot of good information there.
And the spelling, once again, is SOBRsafe.com. David Gandini, thank you for spending time with us.
And thank you so much, Fred. We appreciate it.